Neshaminy Manor. Today we are celebrating Juneteenth. We are starting with an information board about Juneteenth and some interesting information. Each employee can answer a quiz and receive 10 tickets to win prizes of unspeakable value. We have giveaways, candy, water bottles,
and you get 10 free tickets.
And beautiful pins made by the activities department.
You get to write your name on the back.
We have candy and we have Juneteenth commemorative bracelets for everybody. So thank you, everybody. Please come down and enjoy our event.
Either questionnaire.
And prizes of unspeakable value.
Yay! I love when you say that.
But it doesn't say anything about the fanatic.
It's something.
Oh, he's a Philip? Oh, okay. Cute.
So and that's interesting because, you know, a lot of you know that I have my youngest son was at Fort Benning, Georgia, and he went through a basic training there, and then he did the jump school. So my wife and I actually flew down to Georgia. I've never been in Georgia, and went to Fort Benning, and you can watch the night jumps. So it's really pretty impressive because it's dark outside, and all of a sudden you see this big jet with 4 engines coming. It's low. We're like, oh man. And then you can see inside the door, you can see a little red light. There was a master sergeant who was retired who was there. I'll tell you more about him in a second. He said, JC, look, you can see that. And that red light means don't jump yet. And then at some point it gets to where it's green. He said, now they're going to jump. So, you know, they're all attached, just like World War II movies, right? And they're jumping out. You can see them, but then it's dark, so that you can't really see when they finally come down. So this master sergeant that I was talking to, an Afro-American gentleman, he was retired from the military, 34 years, and he was an NCO. Does anybody know what that is? It's a non-commissioned officer, and I only know that because my dad was in the Army, and he used to have a lot of friends who were non-commissioned officers. My dad was, was an officer. So I got to learn a little bit more about Cecil and what he was doing there. So he has this coin that he gives out to all of the family members who have sons or daughters who are jumping. And the coin talks about Antioch and about the 82nd Airborne. All right? It's very moving, right? Because it goes back in history. And this is a guy that, when you watch him, you can tell that he's very studied and very professional and a mentor to boot. Amazing guy, amazing guy. So he would go down, so there was like this fence area, we all stood behind this fence, it was dark and there was this road, big fields, right, and trees way over there. And they had this little hut where the paratroopers would end up. So they would be coming out of the dark, you know, with their packs on, 90 pounds worth of parachute stuff. And there was some little ladies and there were big guys, there was every nationality in the world coming out. And Cecil would be down at the end and saying, come on, paratroopers, come on! You know, and he would be joshing them like, you know, you guys jumped out of a perfectly good plane, don't tell anybody. You know, and then he would say, you know, you're getting paid to do this. But it was very genuine. Like he would help them pick up some of the straps and wrap it around their parachute thing and move them on. And he was cheering them. We were there for a couple hours. He's cheering them on. I got to know him. And this relates to today. Really a gentleman. And so I talked to him and I said, you know, I lived on military bases my whole life. So I got to know a lot of soldiers, and I could see that NCOs are like the boots on the ground, and they're in charge of the battalion and all the soldiers. They're mentors, they're counselors, they're disciplinarians, they do all that, right? They're very well studied, right? They're the true leaders in the military, right? They're on the battlefield, they're the ones out calling a lot of the shots. So as I talked to him, I said, Cecil, so you're volunteering here? Yeah, that's right, I'm volunteering here, JC. So, how long have you been doing this? And we were going back and forth. And he said, but I'm going to California. I said, why are you going to California? He said, well, I have a girlfriend out there, but I just got to go to California, get out of the state. I said, what do you mean? He said, because not on the base, but when I'm off the base, they treat me like a slave. It was like punching me in the face, like I never realized that. This is a guy who's truthful. He's not playing games, right? Made me stop and think. I thought, what would my dad say? So my dad was in Vietnam and Korea and whatnot, and he told me this. My dad taught me a lot of things. He said, listen, when the shooting starts, all those people who are atheists become religious converts immediately, right? Because then they realize what's important. So I thought about Cecil for a minute. I said to him, you know, all of our blood is red. Thank you for what you're doing. But stick up for yourself, man, because you deserve it. So, it really, just, you know, as a white man in this world, I'm not aware of that. So even Mary Jo recently taught me about what is Juneteenth Day, and they'll talk more about that. So, you know, please be aware. Please be aware. And we have a lot of nationalities in this building, and we do a fantastic job. You guys do an unbelievable job bringing people together. And we don't really see color here, or nationality, or LGBT, none of that. We all work together. And we see a lot of life, and we see a lot of death. So we have our act together here, so thank you. No further ado, I'm going to have Mary Jo.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for everybody who helped in this event. I know I've been talking about it for months, and it's come together. So please encourage your staff to come down just for a minute. I have giveaways. I have anyone who participates gets tickets to win prizes. We have chocolate, we have bracelets, we have buttons. Thank you, Jane. These are so cute. And we have an information board, which everybody is reading, and they're very interested. So thank you, Nancy, put that together. Nancy is part of the Diversity Council for Sodexo. So she's behind a lot of this. So thank you, Nancy. I've invited leadership from Sodexo, just so you could meet what we're all about. I know you hear me day in and day out, but it really truly is a great company. I'm going to start with Tom Rogers, my new district manager. He loves me. We met when we were 25. I was 25. You were. Dave Gress, regional vice president, been around a long time in operations. Has done a lot for the employees of Sodexo, and I thank you. And our special guest, Zeta Smith, CEO, USA Sodexo Seniors. Big job, and I asked her 3 months ago if she would come, and she said yes. And I feel like we're very, very lucky. She's going to start with a diversity moment. She's going to explain a little bit about Sodexo and our diversity initiatives. And without further ado, welcome.
Can I take the mask?
Yes.
Do we need a microphone, Jane? We're going to do it. Are you okay without a microphone?
I'm
Good?
fine.
Okay.
Well, good morning.
Good morning.
And Mary Jo, thank you for the invitation. And JC, you really set the stage, I think, for this diversity moment and diversity day. We always start in Sodexo with both a safety moment and we call it DE&I spotlight, so diversity, equity, and inclusion. So we didn't do the safety moment, so everyone be safe. But I'll do the diversity moment, which is Juneteenth. So does anyone know what Juneteenth, how we came up with the name, or how the name was created? Okay, Nancy, you can't. So you'll probably learn that at the table, maybe. So it's a combination of the month of June and the 19th. So June 19th of 1865 was officially the end of slavery. And there was about 250,000 slaves that were still enslaved, even though in 1863, so 2 years before that, Abraham Lincoln had declared it was the end of slavery. But it took 2 years to figure out how to get everyone unslaved. And in Galveston, Texas, this was the last of the slaves, and the Union soldiers came in and kind of announced, hey, didn't you know? It's been 2 years and you are free. So it became this big celebration around the end of slavery. So it started in Texas, and 157 years later, effective the 19th, what date are we? I don't know what date. Thank you. The 19th, it'll be 157 years that we've celebrated that. It has officially become a federal holiday last year. And so I think it's taken a while to get there, but we got there. So we typically start with a diversity moment, really just to kind of ground ourselves in why we do what we do. And Sodexo, there's over 400,000 employees. We are in 56 countries across the world. But from a diversity standpoint, we have global diversity, equity, and inclusion officers across the world. We have a global leader in the U.S. who leads all of our initiatives for diversity, as well as just think about all of the countries that we market in. We have actual diversity leaders. So it's core to us. This is kind of what we do. This is kind of who we are. Nancy's on our Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Council for Sodexo Seniors, which I lead that team. And then, of course, Tom and Dave are part of my team of field leaders and help support the initiatives. It's very important. We focus on we call them 5 global dimensions. So gender, race, ethnicity, disability, military/veterans, and the LGBTQ plus community. And so all of our initiatives are around those 5 dimensions. But it really is about providing quality of life to our employees and to all we serve, which includes all of you. So that's a little bit about what we do around diversity with Sodexo. But you know, Mary Jo asked me to kind of share a little bit about myself, and I hope I don't bore you to tears. I'm not going to start with I walked, you know, in the snow barefoot when I'm not going to do that. But I do think it's important to just share a little bit about where I came from and how I got here. So are we willing to?
Yes. Absolutely.
Because I have nothing to report out to you, JC. I'm like, we went around the room. I'm like, okay, I got nothing, but I'll just share a little bit about me. So I grew up in Lancaster County. So hopefully all of you are familiar at least with Lancaster, and actually stayed with my parents last night and got a home-cooked meal. I love it. And my strawberry shortcake favorite dessert. Mom doesn't let me down every time. So really, really happy to be here. I, grew up in Lancaster County in the 70s, sharing my age, and we were the only black family in the neighborhood. What I just found out within the last 3 years is that the first house we lived in when I was between being a baby and 9 years old, they had petitioned the neighborhood for us not to come. And I didn't even know that, because all I have were wonderful memories of growing up. Kids, it's innocent. We don't know, we don't see color, we just run around and get dirty. And so some of these darker stories start coming out as adults of what my parents went through during that time. My mom it was a double, but my mom was working, my dad was working, and she was the only working mom on the street. And she said, I'm not even going to tell you, how the neighbors made me feel about having latchkey kids, right? So she had to make a living, we had to live, and it was really frowned upon. So again, all these things are coming out later in life, and so not even realizing what challenges my parents had to just make sure they were setting us up, me and my brother, for success. So I went to University of Maryland. My first job was with ExxonMobil. I stayed there for 15 years. My first, prior to going to ExxonMobil, my first exposure to racism in the professional environment, I was interning. I was a senior at University of Maryland. I was interning at a utility company. And my predecessor, who had interned the prior year, white male, you had to, at the end of your internship, make a presentation. And he had made a presentation, it was great, he got a job, he's sitting in an office, so on and so forth. Next year I come in, he's telling me, hey, if you do a good on your presentation, you can have an office like this. And I'm what, 21 or whatever, and okay, so that's what I have to do. And I was used to succeeding at everything. I thought I did a really good job with the presentation. That's what they said. And then they said, hey, we want to offer you a job. So they led me downstairs. It literally was in the basement. And it was the customer service center, where there were probably close to 100 people with headsets on answering customer complaints about the utility, right? Guess what color they all were? Yeah. So they all look like me, black men and women. And I turned to her and was like, so, but my major's in marketing. So how does this, well, you know, you can start here and kind of work your way up. I'm like, and my parents always said, you know, you can be, Zita, you can be whatever you want to be. Don't let others try to tell you based on your gender or the color of your skin who you can be. And so luckily, I had that kind of foundation with my parents to know that wasn't going to be good enough for me. It could be good enough for many people, but I knew that I could do something different. So fast forward, I joined ExxonMobil into a management trainee program, and then they put me in North Jersey. I was overseeing a territory of 26 franchisee locations. So back then, I sound so old now. So back then, you go to service stations and they had bay locations, mechanics. That's where you went to get your car fixed. They didn't have convenience stores at the time. So I want you to picture me, age 22, walking onto station lots of franchisees who are white, male, and average age was 55. And most had been in the business at least 20 years. And I'm now supposed to recommend gasoline pricing and sell oil to you. How do you think that went?
No.
Okay. But here's what happened. Number one, if you do a good job, people stop seeing the woman part, they stop seeing the color part, they just see you and get your job done. But two, I think it was all about people. It's all about building relationships, making connections, do your job, follow through. And so I had 26 franchise dealers, and I have many, many stories of walking into back rooms, and at that time you had the girly calendars. Anyway, that's a whole nother diversity training story. But I took time to teach these franchisees and to have them know what it feels like to be black and what it feels like to be a woman. And so if you know what it feels like, can you do better? Can you change what you're doing? Because I don't think they thought anything of putting up the girly calendar until I said something. And I had a choice. Do I say something or do I just let it go because it's always been this way? I chose to say something. So I learned that quickly, like, I got to stand up for myself or this may not be good. So throughout my career, I stayed there for 15 years. I progressed through many different opportunities with ExxonMobil. And then I fell in love and had to move. And I decided, let me put my name out there. And I landed with Starbucks Coffee Company. I stayed there for 12 years. I was in New York. I covered the state of New York as my first role there. And I had probably, 3,000 employees. So I want you to think about, I had 114 Starbucks stores from Bronxville to Buffalo, and there's probably 10 or 15 employees in each store. So you are responsible for that. P&L, people, customer complaints, like all of that. That's where I really learned that people matter. How you talk to people, how you lead people, how you follow up with people. And I'm sure all of you can relate. It is about people, whatever you do. I was then promoted to RVP, where now I had 7 regions, just like I just explained. So now you're talking just thousands of people, thousands of customers. My last role was as a divisional senior vice president. I covered the eastern part of the country. I had, well, Midwest and East. I had 4,500 Starbucks stores. I had 600 district managers. It was a lot. But what I realized is, you know, when you lead people with transparency, with empathy, you set expectations, you follow up, but you show you care, people trust you. And for me, that's important. I didn't know how important that was until I got to Sodexo. So I started with Sodexo January 2020. I was onboarding, I went to a couple of senior communities. I went live March 6th. What do you think happened March 13th, 2020? Okay, so in lockdown, I had at least met Dave and Tom live, you know, when I was in training, but it just became about a virtual world because everyone was in lockdown. It wasn't like I could come visit or have hands-on leadership. But I realized, okay, so how do you, through crisis management, how do you build trust with a team that you don't know? How do you build trust with clients that you don't know? And I'm still trying to figure out what is Sodexo, what is seniors, like I'm trying to learn all that. But I guess the bottom line is it is about people. And even though I didn't know all there was to know about the industry, I do know people and how you lead through that, and especially in a time of such ambiguity with what we are experiencing over the last 2.5 years, and the pandemic keeps coming, right? But for me, it is about instilling trust, etc. And I think through that, and maybe Tom and Dave can correct me, you know, I thought leadership really was important to kind of keep everyone steady. I think the one piece that has been a bit surprising to me is when I go to conferences, I'm one of very few that look like me, very few. And I can't say that that's new to me, but I know that this population overall in the country and in the world is extremely diverse and only continuing to get more diverse. So my hope is that more leaders in the senior industry will become more diverse, because right now I think that's where there's a big opportunity. So that's a little bit about me, a little bit about diversity, but I just wanted to come and just share. I'm just so happy to be a part of this celebration of Juneteenth. It's important, and now it's a federal holiday, but the fact that I'm seeing red and we got the tables out and having a little bit of fun, but just know where it originated from was a place of darkness that became a celebration of freedom, which we all can enjoy today. So is there any questions or any comments for me around either my leadership or Sodexo or diversity? I'd be happy to answer. No pressure, but
Anyone? Questions?
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. We have refreshments for everybody. Please partake. You can take it back with you if you don't have time. But in the afternoon, we have Bernard Griggs, who is the County of Bucks Diversity leader, who will be here today, along with Margie McKevitt, who is the CEO of Bucks County, Randy Miller, who is the Director of Outreach and Training, and I've been working with them as part of the Diversity Council for the County of Bucks, so I asked them to come, but of course I planned it on the commissioner meeting. I wanted them to be here today, but they will be here this afternoon. So hopefully you'll have some time and we'll do a little meet and greet. So please partake, and thank you for everything you do every day. It's a wonderful place.
Okay, here we are at the diversity table again, the Juneteenth table. And could you just give us a brief explanation of what you do, Nancy?
Sure. My name is Nancy Dickens, and I'm a dietitian here at Neshaminy Manor. I work for a company called Sodexo, and at Sodexo I'm on the Diversity and Inclusion Council for their Seniors Division. And we are liaisons between management and the units in the Senior Division, and we help provide resources on diversity, equity, and inclusion for the staff working in the units, and try to be a support for issues that come up for our staff who works in nursing homes and long-term care.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thanks for everything you do for us here.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a good day. You too.
Are you enjoying Juneteenth so far?
I am.
Good.
Thank you.
All right, give me a little wave, guys.
Oh gosh, hi! You caught me red-handed.
Nice spread.
Rita Alexis and Rosemary Blake. 10.
These guys are taking the quiz so they can get some tickets so they can win a prize of unspeakable value. All right.
Hey, baby, how are you? Larry, I don't know why you're here. Can you not win? I know.
That's the way I.
These guys are competitive.
Taking out the tickets.
The activities department made a beautiful photo booth here with a Juneteenth banner, and then the staff can hold up props and take pictures with their friends, and they're able to take a Polaroid home with them.
Ladies.
Let's go! Let's go! Happy Juneteenth! Happy Juneteenth! Freedom!
That's right.
Celebration!
Educate.
And educate!
Sounds good. Enjoy.
Just say
So thank you everybody for coming. We're just beginning our festivities, and we're going to have authentic desserts from South Africa and Liberia. This is made from scratch, and I got these recipes from our wonderful CNAs. So the first thing you see in that bowl is called malva pudding. It's a South African dessert. And if I were home, I would have made more syrup. But it's very moist, so it is like a nice bread pudding almost. This little caramel-colored round disc is called milk candy.
Smile. I have food in my mouth.
That's and milk candy is a Liberian candy. And believe it or not, it's simply made with condensed sugar sweetened milk. The canned condensed sweetened milk. And it's the sweetened condensed. And you stir, 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 it becomes like a taffy, and then you roll it and it becomes a candy like that. And then we have the square looking kind of bread, right?
Yeah.
That is called Liberian rice bread. The square cake or bread looking, that's Liberian rice bread.
Oh, rice bread.
But they do put bananas in there. So it's like our banana bread, but it's made with cream of rice.
Who made all this stuff?
She did.
C2 is celebrating this afternoon.
And we have peach cobbler and topping of ice cream.
Ooh. Everybody wave. Say C2 rocks.
C2 rocks.
They rock and they roll.
Yeah, I like that shirt. Rock and roll.